And we've got someone here who's won the International Media Leader of the Year 2 years in a row. So we're going to find out how he won it, and it's not because he gave me a backhander. He genuinely deserved to win it, okay? So if we can please welcome to the stage Duncan Chater.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Very good.
Good to see you again.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
No worries. So look, as we know, this time goes so quickly. So I think what we'll do is we'll spend a very short amount of time. I'll give an overview of kind of some of the highlights from winning this year, but then we really want to hear from you. So there was a couple of things which really stood out for the judges. It was the part that you guys have implemented at Bloomberg around the culture and inclusion. Very impressive numbers in terms of employee engagement scores, staff retention. The excellence part of the entry was very much around 15 of your biggest accounts, you delivered 50% of your revenue, and that was up 30% from 2021. So super impressive numbers.
Sounds good when it's played back.
It's fantastic, isn't it? You know, it's what you do best, and we're going to find out why. I mean, look, it was very similar actually to the last question that was just posed to Ras there about what would he tell a 10-year-old self. So my question to you is, you know, if we're here to celebrate future leaders, if you look back, you know, when you were starting out perhaps in your career, you know, what was the thing that you wish you could have told yourself?
I knew this question was coming. I think you've asked it to me before. So
I just want an answer. I've asked twice before. I need an answer.
I'm just not. I think the issue is when I think back to myself when I'm younger, I don't know what I would have told myself. I probably wasn't very good at listening. So, and the world was like very different, right? The environment was different. So I think what I would say is what I say to my kids, because like that's a good thing. And I get like the thing that I think is you can't actually be a very good leader unless you look after yourself. To look after yourself, you need to understand yourself. So like I think the thing that I do concentrate on with my kids is making sure that they're like really kind of questioning and understanding their emotions and understanding themselves so they can manage themselves effectively. And I think it's something, you know, certainly, I mean, we didn't talk about this loads, certainly in my era of growing up, and it's more and more important now. But given all of the kind of complexity and pressure that everyone has, if you're able to really understand, you know, what energizes you, what drains you, and then you can kind of control some of those situations a little bit better, then you could be more effective. So that would be probably my advice. And it's certainly what I work on with my children. So like,
it's quite an interesting one because we touched on obviously in the last session around well-being and mental health and that whole thing in terms of like looking after yourself more and we did touch on it from a business point of view. How would that have been different for you starting out? Do you think
no one ever talked about that. I mean, like, you know, the thing is I suppose, and we've spoken about this before, when you think about like how leadership and everything has changed, I think 20 years ago, you were told what to do, you did it, you worked hard, but like, and the leader was often someone that had all of the answers and everything kind of went through. And like now, being a leader, I think often is how do you create the right environment for everyone to be at their best? Because it's not really about one person. One person can deliver X, but 100 people at their best can deliver so much more. So like often how I think about it is what's the difference in performance with everyone at their best versus everyone at 50%, and then how much of my time do I need to get everyone there and where is everyone, and how do I manage that?
And I suppose we don't have nearly enough time to probably dive into that, but is there one thing, either it's something that you do, it's something that has made a lasting impression on you, perhaps a leader or just a colleague, someone that you work with, is there any one thing, I guess, on that particular subject that stands out?
No, I think it's lots of little things. If I kind of think about things that I guess I take from, there's people I have in mind from my career I can think of like some people that were just brilliant that turned up every day in the office, and they were like walking in and so energetic, and you were like, oh God, I feel a bit energized myself now. And that like always stays with me. I think I always think, right, when I come in, how do I convey some of that energy? That's important. Yeah. And other leaders that I've worked with that have just been brilliant at listening. And I mean, like listening, but hearing, because there's two types. You can have someone that's sat in front of you and is listening to what you're saying, and there's eye contact. And then there's people that you speak to, and they really, you feel like they just hear you, and like, oh, and the difference then in how you feel, might not even be able to do anything about it, but you feel heard and understood and appreciated, and that enables you to go on and deliver so much more. But I mean, I feel very fortunate, because I think through all of the roles that I've had, I've been able to touch and experience and see firsthand lots of different great leaders that are probably taking things without even really realizing them. So sometimes I try and jot that down. But I mean, if I'm honest as well, some things that really stick with me are some of the environments that haven't been great.
Yeah.
And actually remembering them and then thinking, like that, I never want to be like involved as a leader. And so how do I protect everyone from that environment?
Yeah.
And how do I react at the first sign of those things happening? How do I make sure I stamp it out? So in that, like, I think consistency then is really important. I was very fortunate to have a boss in the US actually, who, I mean, he worked in the industry for years and retired, and just no one had anything negative to say about him. And I was like thinking, how the hell do you do, I mean, it's just impossible, right? You just can't do it. But like, really, he was tough, but he listened, and then he offered always his honest view, but he was so consistent. There was no favoritism at all. It was just the same for everyone. So I think that's something that I always try and make sure I'm thinking about, like, you know, no biases, be completely fair in every situation, because that can be a real frustration. So
yeah, okay. I've got a few more questions, but also I thought it'd be quite good if anyone does have any questions themselves. There's one straight there at the back. We can just do an audience for one later on if you want. It'd be absolutely fine. I don't know if there is a mic where you just want to shout out.
So a key theme that's come out of the last few days is AI, and I'm interested to know your thoughts on the impact that AI is going to have. Obviously, we know it's going to have a massive impact on the industry, but what's that going to mean for leadership? Like, are we going to have a lack of leaders because everything is so formulaic in how we're thinking and doing work? Is there going to be a lack of leadership in, say, 10, 20 years' time?
That's a good question. I should throw questions out more, because mine are terrible now. I've heard that, and I'm looking down here. Please, everyone, get more questions ready. It's only downhill otherwise after that question.
yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think the way, and someone said this to me recently actually, is like AI is a tool for us to be able to kind of process information much, much quicker. And I think we'll look at AI a bit like Excel. Like, you know, it's a tool, and the key thing I think is we've got to understand AI and know how to direct it in the same way as, you know, some people are really good at Excel, and you watch them, you're like, how did you do that? Like coding, and now like that's so quick, I want to learn that. So the people that understand, I guess, how to get the best out of, and you don't necessarily need to be able to know how to do the coding, but you need to know that you can do the coding. And then you go to someone that can. And I think it's like the people that understand that will be able to use the systems better, and therefore then be more effective in their job. But I don't think it's going to take anything away and from media. I think it will just free up more time for us to be more strategic, to think about where we can deliver the most impact.
And I think the point that was also made earlier, wasn't it? It's about you can't remove that human element, right?
Yeah.
And God help us all if we live in a world where AI is telling us what to do.
Well, AI can't ask questions. So, like, that's the big, you know, then, and if you think about it that way again, then, like, that's the role, isn't it? You've got to kind of probe and direct it.
Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you for that. Yes. So just in case anyone didn't hear that, that was mentioned, talked about consistency earlier, but were there any other key things in terms of building a culture?
I think you've got to get everyone engaged and involved. So, like, really, if you know, you can want to have the best culture, but if no one's really involved or cares, then it's not meaningful. So, you know, we've. I always am conscious in these situations. Like, everyone can do more, everyone can be like better, but you know, and this is big shout out to all of the teams at Bloomberg, because they are super engaged and brilliant at doing this stuff. But actually then the role often for the leader is to help facilitate and make these things happen. But just listening to the last session, actually one of the things that we introduced recently was just doing a very short 5-minute presentation each week that we have that's called Culture Bites. We have lots of staff actually from all around the world. So they come in and they bring some food before we have our kind of weekly meeting, but they explain a little bit of the background behind the food and the culture. And I love it. It's just so good. You get a really interesting perspective. You feel like you're learning. You feel like you're much closer to all of your team. And it's just, I can see the kind of energy and the pride actually of everyone when they're talking about their different food, and often they've made it themselves and stayed up late. And it's a really lovely thing. So I think, you know, actually trying to just find the things that help bring people together and support and encourage, you know, different moments.
Do you think on that topic of culture, so we talk about company culture, does that dictate the type of leader that you have to be? Because do you have to adapt based on the company you're at, based on what that culture is? Or can you be the same leader from company to company?
Yeah, I think you can be the same. I mean, look, I came from lifestyle, luxury and fashion magazine business and moved into a global financial business media corporation, completely different. You know, I'm still actually learning my way around this area of London. I found it here, so it's okay. But look, I think, so I think you still have...
You're meant to be in Future of Gaming right now.
No, I knew it. But you've got to be authentic, so you've got to be yourself, because otherwise people see through that. So I think you do. You've got to be you've got to be authentic, so there should be some consistency there as who you are as a person. But I suppose there's got to be some degree of adapting also to the business.
Do you then, that part about being authentic, and we hear that a lot. I mean, look, we're all human as well, and we make mistakes. Does that mean as a leader as well, you've got to cut yourself a bit of slack sometimes, like you're going to get it wrong? And what's your approach with that?
Yeah, you get it wrong. Well, I mean, if you spoke to my team, I'm sure there's plenty of occasions where you get it wrong. But like, if you're not getting it wrong as well...
And here they come now.
Yeah, with a list. But if you're not getting it wrong, then are you pushing yourself hard enough? Because I'm also a massive believer, you've got to keep, if you keep putting yourself outside of your comfort zone, it's when you learn most about yourself. But it's also how not only you grow, but the business grows. You've got to keep pushing into new areas. Yeah. And then you get stuff wrong. So, but if you create an environment where everyone's petrified of getting stuff wrong, I mean, that's not good.
Yeah.
So but that you've got to lead in that way and show that you can demonstrate that. I made a really bad decision, actually, on one of our culture days. We went to Battersea
What did you wear?
Park. Oh no, it wasn't what I wore. We went to Battersea Park, and we had lots of choices of different things that we could do when we were coming together. And I had it in my head, push yourself outside your comfort zone. I hate heights, and I picked Go Ape, and it wasn't pleasant. There was a lot of swearing. It was really high. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be that high. Yeah, still slightly.
We'll move on from that. We've literally got about 90 seconds left. These questions have been great. Yes.
So it's great that you've been talking about culture, and you've had a fantastic career, not just at Bloomberg, but throughout the years. I'd love to kind of hear about what Bloomberg or you're doing more women or people from marginalised communities into roles like yours?
Yeah, I think so. We're actually the company is set up, has some brilliant infrastructure actually, and we have about, I think it's 12 different kind of communities that are funded through the company that then basically are come together and run a lot of events. I guess actually to start different kind of conversations and build awareness and intelligence in different areas, but that also feeds through to everyone. So there's a great distribution and togetherness for all of the different communities. And then also as part of the company, we have a big philanthropic arm to the business. We're all encouraged to participate in that. So there's actually lots of opportunities that many of us engage in terms of mentorship for different organisations and going out and being part of lots of different activities. So actually every year we have the opportunity, which I've done for the last 3 years, of just supporting over a day different charities actually across DE&I and helping support them in terms of kind of marketing and advertising. So I think there's lots of different ways that you can go back and actually get involved in areas that are really important to you. And then we also have, I mean, I could go on for ages, but there's a lot of things. And I think it's about balance and making sure that we're moving those areas forward because they need to, and we're still kind of playing catch up.
Brilliant. We've unfortunately run out of time. There's so much we could go through, but again, thank you ever so much for coming along. And if you're standing around, anyone does have any questions, I'm sure you'd be happy to answer them. Please give a round of applause for Duncan.
Thank you.
Thank you.